Hey there, Editing Exo here. Just wanted to put this at the front of the video because there isn't really a great point that we just talk about what my guest does with content creation, so I wanted to put this here to make sure people saw it. He runs Dial H for HeroClix. HeroClix is a tabletop miniatures skirmish combat game, largely based on Marvel and DC comics. It's a lot of fun. I play a lot of HeroClix. It's how I met Calder. So he runs Dial H for HeroClix. They're a podcast, but they also do a bunch of YouTube videos. A lot of them are really funny. Even if you don't care about HeroClix or think you don't care about HeroClix, you should check it out. Some of their stuff is just really funny, regardless of any of the HeroClix context. And then the other thing he does is he does a lot of cosplaying, and he does, obviously Team Fortress cosplay, but a lot of Captain America and other things. You can check him out at Patriot Props. That is the name of his Facebook page, and I assume there's like an Instagram and stuff too. But he does a lot with that. So, yeah, check him out. And on to the interview. Hello and welcome back to Exothermic Plays Games. I'm Exothermic, and I've been doing a daily countdown of my 366 favorite video games of all time through every day of 2024. Obviously, on December 31st, I will be talking about my favorite game of all time, but today is not December 31st. It is October 7th, and today I have ranking for Team Fortress 2. There is an actual ranking video where I just talk about my thoughts of the game in the normal format of the channel, but I wanted to sit and talk with a friend where Team Fortress 2 is his favorite game of all time, and we can kind of hear why he thinks it should be yours too. So Calder, hi there.
Hi there, I am Calder. I love Team Fortress 2. You might know me as Nova Shotgunner, my Steam ID. I am a engineer main for those TF2 fans at home with a big secondary focus in Soldier. So I love Team Fortress 2. You're correct, Alex. It's my favorite game of all time. And I guess October 7th is going to be burned into my brain as my pseudo exothermic TF2 day, I guess.
Right.
So that's pretty fun.
Yeah. So, I guess let's start with when did you start playing Team Fortress 2? What kind of drew you to it?
Ooh, you know what? I should pull up my inventory because the Mercenarier badge will tell me the exact date I started. Sometime in August of 2013, 2012, somewhere around there. Let's see. The Mercenary badge. Oh, no, it's the Bronze Dueling badge. Okay, Mercenarier. Higher date. Wednesday, August 29th, 2012 is when I started playing Team Fortress 2, I guess. How handy. I had a friend in this is going to sound crazy, but the Lego community who convinced me to play Team Fortress 2. I first played this game on my father's MacBook Pro, that poor computer. TF2 had recently become available, playable on a Mac, and that's when I started playing it. And I just kind of got into it. I remember the thrill of my very first weapon drop. I was like, what? No way. What is this? It was a volcanic fragment axe. Wow, I should really know the names of a lot of these weapons better, but that was like the first weapon drop I ever had. I remember like looking in the menu, being like all the crafting. Obviously, before I started playing TF2, I watched all of the Meet the videos that were out there. I think by that point in 2012, all of them were? I think they were all out. I think maybe the Pyro one was like recently had come out or something.
That was the last one to come out, but I think they were out.
They were all out. That sounds right. And so like I like loved them all. I really enjoyed like the Meet the Soldier. I have like the Meet the Engineer memorized. I love like the Meet the Engineer's little monologue. It's so cute. So yeah, I started playing around then, and then I want to say, I don't think I wasn't an engineer main yet. It happened very soon though, mostly because again I was playing on a MacBook and could not aim to save my life. I was playing on a laptop, and fun fact, I didn't know how PC gaming worked, so I made instead of WASD, I was like, that doesn't make any sense. What in the world? I made it the arrow keys to move, and I used my left hand on the trackpad to aim. So I'm moving with my right hand on the arrow keys, and then I'm using the trackpad, and like the double click on the trackpad with 2 fingers is like mouse 2 technically, and then like the bottom left corner is like mouse 1 on the trackpad. So like, yeah, or like mouse 3, and the mouse 2 is like the right corner. Yeah, the right corner of the trackpad. It's like that was like the first 2 years or so of my TF2 quote unquote career.
You did that for 2 years? You played
for like 2 years, you know. So for those listening, I was 13 in 2012. So, well, later I was 14, but when I started playing TF2, I was 13. So I was very young playing Team Fortress 2 and didn't know any better. Didn't know how PC gaming worked, and I would like, yeah, didn't understand what like a mouse was. Like, no, it's for the big computer. This is a fancy laptop. Yeah,
it has a mouse. It's right there.
Yeah, the thing is, it's literally right there. What are you talking about? It's this little pad thing. Can
you imagine if it was like a Lenovo ThinkPad and you used that little like rubber?
That little thing. Oh, ew, gross. Aiming with that, gosh. So quickly I became an engineer main, mostly because I couldn't aim to save my life. So I'm using a trackpad to aim, for goodness sake. So I became an engineer main very fast, and I was just instantly obsessed with all the best like places to build, all the best places to, teleporter exit, teleporter entrance. Obviously entrance is like just front of the spawn. It takes no effort to figure out. And then I just loved the characters. So even before playing, I read so many of the comics that had been coming out for Team Fortress 2 and was just heavily enjoying them and just really enjoying the lore. The game is, set in 1968 America, like I think it's in Arizona, and it's just, I don't know, it's so of its time and yet so timeless at the same time, where it exists in this weird void where you can dress up as a robot, a skeleton thing, Batman later on, which is hilarious, and just like so much random stuff. So I don't know. That's how I got started. A buddy just really wanted to get me into it. Started playing on a laptop. Ironically, yeah, I've like played on like some form of gaming laptop for the majority of my TF2 career, which is really wild. But instantly gravitated toward like engineer due to my inability to aim on the laptop, which is really fun. Instantly, one of my favorite game modes also in 2012 was just man versus machine. Probably because, again, it was easier to aim. My sentry did 90% of the work as engineer. I got to kind of sit back, and it was like, oh, the robots just come right toward me. They're very easy to shoot at. And it was a ton of fun where I was like instantly captivated by, I have to, it might be a free game, but you need these tickets to play man up mode. So I have to buy these Tour of Duty tickets. I have to get these weapon drops. I need this, gold bot killer wrench. I have to get this. So I'm just, spamming these man versus machine lobbies, and it's so much fun. So many great classic gaming late nights of Team Fortress 2 playing man versus machine, where really for a majority of my TF2 career and everything, I think most people think, the PvP game mode of Team Fortress 2, and I feel bad for any like really hardcore TF2 fans, like listeners that may be watching, but I love man versus machine. Man versus machine is like, that's like prime TF2 to me. And then it was like, also there's a PvP game mode. So like very much so I was like, I love man versus machine. This is the way to go. I love all the upgrades. I love all the fun ways to play the game. Kind of like buff up soldiers, like Beggar's Bazooka was like classic. Learning like what weapons were meta for man versus machine was a ton of fun. And I absolutely loved it. And then it was like, also I guess if you want to, we can play normal. I guess you would call like normal TF2. Yeah. We can play whatever control points or King of the Hill or something like that, payload.
So that's funny to me because like my history of playing this game is we got the orange box when it came out on Xbox 360, which had TF2, Portal, Half-Life 2 Episode 2, some other stuff, and we did try to play TF2, but we didn't have an Xbox Live membership at the time, so we couldn't play online, which pretty much meant you couldn't play TF2. Right. So we were like, this looks neat, but like we can't really do anything with this. And we just kind of forgot about it. We just played Portal like everybody else.
That makes sense.
And so, but then later, when my older brother got a new gaming computer and stuff, and it's like, hey, yeah, we should check this out now. And we did, and it was a lot of fun. And I think of TF2 is paying payload.
Okay.
That is the game, and then everything else is auxiliary to that.
For sure.
So it is funny to me that, like, you know, I was like, oh well, we can't do this multiplayer yet, so we can't play this game, and you're like, the multiplayer is an afterthought.
Yeah, which is funny because I mean it just didn't exist
Obviously,
yet.
it
Man versus
didn't
Machine
exist yet. Yeah,
it wasn't a thing. I do remember when I asked my friend like, okay, well, like what's like the story mode, and he's like, well, there's no story mode. I was like, what do you mean? It's a video game.
It is
There's
so
gotta
crazy
be.
to me that they've still never really made a story mode for TF2.
No.
Because like they've done so much story and world building that like they just should.
Yeah,
I think it'd be great.
I would love a series
Like-
of just missions, even that roughly
like
tell a
let's
story.
say it's like 5 missions for each character. Like imagine doing like a stealth shooter thing with Spy.
That'd be actually so much fun.
That'd be great.
The stealth levels, the every gamer's like bane, where it's like a game that you don't think is a stealth game, it has like a stealth level in it. And you're like, no,
Yes.
I have to sneak around.
Suddenly I
What?
have to stop.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that would actually be so much fun. I would still really enjoy
do
that if they
like-
did some
like,
form of like that.
GoldenEye 007 like style like little campaign with Spy would be really cool, and then you
That
could
would
have
be
like
really fun. He would.
you could do like a let's see here, what could Heavy's campaign be? It'd be like Space Marine, where you're just like
Okay.
mowing everything down and like
Yeah, with like this mini cooking mama game mode in for making the sandwich or like other like food items.
yeah,
Would be
oh my
kinda
god, cooking mama to make a sandwich.
Yeah. Engineer is just like we say, he's like the tower defense character that we
All
said.
right, Val, you better be listening.
Yeah. I mean, even if they are, there's nothing to. They'll be like, oh, that's cool. Anyways, back to doing nothing.
Back to hats.
Yeah. Here's a new crate.
So speaking of hats and crates, I know you've gotten far more into any of that than I have. For the most part, I generally don't care about like cosmetics and things of that nature in games. If I get them, cool, but I'm not gonna go out of my way. I know you've collected a lot of things.
Have.
What
I
kind
really
of
have.
spawned that?
I think it just kind of comes down to when people really enjoy something, they want to like bling it out. They want to accessorize. It's
Mhm.
in a lot of games that's the case.
I have blinged out stuff in other games. but yes.
Like when people they love their car and they put a million stickers on it, or guys that like their truck and they get a lift kit and a million things for it, right? That was me with like, well, if I'm gonna play engineer, if I'm gonna play my favorite class a bunch, I need to have a set of cosmetics that I just love for them. And so that spawned where I have like most engineer cosmetics that so I can switch into at any time, just because he's my favorite class. So I just have like almost all of his cosmetics. And then, well, let's start from the beginning. At first, it was like, well, I'm a 13-year-old kid. I don't have any money.
Yeah.
So what are all the items in TF2 that I can get for free? So I referenced earlier during gameplay that you had like the Spiral Knight hat, because I remember just Googling how to get TF2 items for free. Like, how do I get cosmetics? Because hats were crazy rare.
Crossover with another free game, right?
Exactly, yeah. So Spiral Knights was a free game that if you did like one of the first or second missions in that game after the tutorial is like you can unlock the TF2 hat. There's Monday Night Combat hats. There was, I forget what game it was, but you could get the Black Rose knife for Spy. There was the football, really weird nuts and bolts football helmet that you got playing this like Gang City something or other, like really weird game that you could get for Heavy. And then there was the Poker Night at the Inventory, famous Poker Night at the Inventory game, I think, anyways, for me.
No, I agree. I mean, that was a very popular game.
That you could get all sorts of TF2 items, where you could get the most, like, the coolest Demo Man item, the Dangeresque 2, because it went with the meme, Demo Pan, or the Demo Pan meme, where it's like, Stoutchenko for 2. I don't know if you know this meme or not, but Stoutchenko for 2 refined is the Demo Pan, and it's a Demo Knight who uses the pan from Left 4 Dead. Again, like, yeah, I bought Left 4 Dead 2 because I could get the Ellis hat and the pan. So it was like, okay, so what games can I get value out of if I buy them? And which value out of them was also, double dip to get TF2 items and both. Now I have a game to play. So that was how a lot of it started. And then eventually I find out, oh, there's things called unusual hats. And then that's where the gambling addiction starts when you're 14 years old. And so now Christmas rolls around and I'm begging my parents, my grandma, whatever, for Visa gift cards. So I can add money to my Steam account so I can buy keys, so I can gamble on like loot, for crates. And now I'm like looking at all these different crates and like, oh, what are the unusual effects? What's the hat I can get? What's the strange weapon I can get? Because of course I want to track my kills. What am I, a psycho? Of course I want to do that, And so I must have saved up every penny, every allowance, and every few months I would get like $50 to $100 Visa gift cards that I would just blow on keys and open on Steam. Like I love a lot of keys. It's a lot of keys. It's a lot of. I mean, you would watch the Steam market and you would wait until they dipped below $2.49, which is the normal price of a key, and you would wait till they. Sometime the market, it would take a while, but if they dipped to around $2,
could you make purchase orders yet at the time, or did you just have to wait?
I think you could. But I don't know if I was smart enough to.
Got it.
So it's two different things. So, but then I remember just waiting for it to hit under $2. Because if I buy a $2 key versus a $2.50 key, wow, it goes so much further. Like, oh, this is great. So because what was it, $2.50 key? I can only get 25 keys for $50 versus whatever. I get like 30 keys. So I'm like, oh, okay, I want to get as many keys as possible. Absolutely, once more than that, but whatever. So I want to like min-max my keys that I can buy, and playing. Look, you can't not talk about TF2 without talking about gambling. It's kind of rude.
Oh yeah, I mean, like the game is really kind of about the hats now.
It also really brought loot boxes and all that into just gaming. Like I think TF2 was like one of the first games ever to have a crate system.
And it's weird to me that like people have talked about so many other games that I think just like maybe we were numb to it with TF2, and then I think about like when Overwatch came out, which is basically just kind of TF2 again.
Kind of rip off TF2, yeah.
And then they had the loot boxes. People seem to get really up in arms about that, which again, it was just cosmetics. But I feel like people never got mad about the crates in TF2.
Never did. No, they never really did. Like I know, like CS:GO had its like problems with it.
I will say that TF2 is not like, as a person that has played TF2 very casually, kind of the whole time, and never cared about the crates. It's never been in my face about them. Like sometimes it's like, hey, you got a crate, you can go buy a key, and I'm like, cool, thanks. I won't, but cool. And then it's like, all right,
delete it. I know people are like, they get a crate drop, and they're just like, I'll just delete it or whatever.
No, you can sell that on the Steam Marketplace.
Also, you sell it on the Steam Marketplace. Yep, get some change. And some of those old crates are worth a lot, actually. Some certain update crates or seasonal crates are worth a lot more. But to get back to like the original question and talk about some of my favorite items that I have in TF2, I think if you know this, Alex knows this because if he listens to my podcast about HeroClix. I do a podcast.
Yeah, I was going to actually try to throw you a segue here.
Wow.
Like I was going to be like, so you want to talk about your other gambling addiction?
I could talk about my other gambling addiction, but as a point of reference, Alex kind of knows who I am because we're friends through my other podcast. And he knows I'm kind of a contrarian a little bit, where if people specifically really hate something and I don't find a reason to hate it, then I will overcorrect and love it a lot. So in TF2, the hat everybody hates is the Gibbous. The Gibbous is the hat that most people get. It's called the free-to-play hat. It is this messed up looking top hat. I don't know if you're totally aware of this or not, Alex. Like the lore.
I think I have it.
No, you definitely do, because it's the first hat most people get. Because when you dominate a player wearing the Gibbous, you get the Gibbous.
That's right.
So it's an achievement hat. And so everybody, everywhere in TF2 is like, oh, this is a noob hat. You're a noob if you have it. So I went through, and if you check my Steam inventory, I have like 20 Gibbuses of different colors. I went out of my way to buy as many different Gibbuses as I could and paint them all different colors. And I own I used to own an unusual galvanized gibbous, which is the metal version, the MBM version of the hat. And I called it like Rags to Riches or whatever. And I painted it gold. And I thought it was really cool. So like that's one of my all-time favorite hats ever because like it's iconic in kind of like the worst way. It's iconic and it's associated with like noobs. Like if your loadout is the Mercenary or badge, which is what you get automatically for joining the game, the Pyrovision goggles, which you get, I think just again like almost instantly, and then the Gibbous, which again is an achievement hat that you get for dominating a player. That's like just the standard noob loadout. If you see somebody with just those items, you're like, that dude is like, he's on our team and he's just going to be bottom scoring the entire time. So I overcorrect and I'm like, I love the Gibbous. I'm going to get it. My favorite engineer loadout though is the Texas 10 gallon pounded, goodness gracious, edit that, Craig. Painted in overalls. It's like overalls brown or something like that. So it's like a kind of brown cowboy hat, the Texas 10 gallon. The Dad Duds, which is a plaid shirt. It's like one of the few Western style shirts you can get for engineer. And then my favorite beard is the Scotch Saver. I love the Scotch Saver for engineer. It is a reference to, I want to say it's like Mac's beard from 1982, The Thing. It's a reference because I think he's drinking scotch. I think that's why it's called the Scotch Saver. Okay. My little brother told me that's what it's a reference to. So I'm like, okay, sure.
I'll believe it.
So I believe it, yeah. And it used to be the Western wear, and one of my all-time favorite TF2 items is the Special Eyes, because it is a reference to that old commercial, I have special eyes,
yeah,
or
look
whatever.
With your special eyes.
Exactly. So
my brand.
That was one of the see? Okay, so Alex gets it, man of culture. The Special Eyes were, and I guess we really should talk about a bit of the TF2 workshop. So the Special Eyes was one of the first items on the TF2 workshop where I was like, oh, I would love this for engineer. It basically just gave him these bright yellow kind of slits in his goggles, and then you could kind of change them to different emotions, like angry, neutral, sad, whatever. But I love that it was like, oh, wow, it's hilarious that it's a reference to funny commercial at the time. And then I would love for this to be in the game. And then when it finally made it into the game, I was like, wow, that was one of the first items on the workshop. I guess they weren't yellow eyes. I painted them yellow. They're red or blue, obviously. But anyways, they were one of the first items ever on the workshop where I was like, wow, I would love for that to be in the game. And then they made it into the game. So like my go-to engineer loadout early on was the Special Eyes, the Scotch Saver, and the Western wear hat, which is more of like a top hat style Western hat. And then it is now settled on like the Scotch Saver, the Texas 10 gallon, and the Dad Duds for kind of basic engineer, which kind of fun, kind of cowboy-y sort of vibe, which is really cool. So
yeah, obviously you're all about the cowboy vibe.
All about the Western. Yeah, all about the Western aesthetic. Soldiers, a little different. I love kind of playing with my yellow. I also have a strange gibbous. I strangified my normal gibbous. So like, again, I was all in on like people are going to hate this. Well, I'm going to love it then. So I have like a gold strange gibbous that I put on most of my other classes. And then I have a handful. My favorite paint is the Australian gold paint. I love it. It's gold. It's bright yellow. It's gold. Like, come on, who doesn't like gold? So a lot of my classes just have cosmetics that are painted gold. So yeah, that's enough cosmetic talk. I think you can do so much cosmetic talk with TF2.
One other thing that I want to mention, this you making a strange gibbous reminds me of, and I'm sorry, I know you don't really like Magic the Gathering, but there are sets that they made throughout the years that has a white border is part of the frame of the card, and a lot of people think those are ugly and don't like them. They don't match everything else. These were all meant to be like introductory type set products. So people are like, oh, well, they're kind of like on the same idea of like you're a noob, whatever type stuff.
Right.
So some people, you can actually take like acetone and like nail polish remover to cards and strip the ink off of them. You can actually strip the ink off of the black borders of the cards to white border your whole deck. And so some people do that just to tilt people. And I feel like funny. You actually would kind of enjoy that.
No, I appreciate that. I don't know, things that like make people mad that don't bother me at all. Then I'm like, okay, fine, I'll do it. Like to make a HeroClix reference, when the Teen Titans Go figures came out, people were like, ew, gross, ugly. People they have bobbleheads. People hated those. And I was like, well, I don't feel strongly that I hate Teen Titans Go. And I actually really enjoy their mechanics as a team.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm going to play them a bunch.
As figures, just to make people mad. They're a lot of fun.
Yeah. So, no, I'm all about making people mad for just ultimately no reason. It's just funny.
Sure.
But yeah, no, love the Ghastly Gibbous. Hilarious hat. First hat you get. Don't hate the first hat you get. Don't do that. Come on, just 'cause
It's
it's a new
like your
hat.
first friend.
Yeah, it's so cool.
Yeah.
But
So-
that's definitely like all the cosmetic. Like I have a lot of fun cosmetics, and throughout my history of Team Fortress 2, like a lot of the time I would try to do like I'm gonna cosplay a character in TF2. And so I have like a Duke Nukem Scout for a while. I still have a, I guess, Needles Cane Sweet Tooth Pyro, because they kind of straight up made like Sweet Tooth's clothes in TF2. It's like, that's really,
really?
cool.
That is
yeah.
pretty cool.
So like a lot of like Halloween events will just make stuff like that. So it's like, oh, cool. So like now my basic Pyro loadout is like looking like Sweet Tooth, basically, which is really neat.
So I did want to touch on that. They do all sorts of events and special things in the game. My favorite one is the Halloween one. We were talking before this. Your favorite one is the Halloween one. What other ones like do you really like that they've done, and what is something that you wish they would do?
That is a great question. Probably my favorite Team Fortress 2 update just ever was Gunmetal. Gunmetal, I know life. And Gunmetal was a year after you stopped playing, so it's a little tough. But Gunmetal was just so much fun. So that was when they first added contracts, and they added some of my favorite maps to the game. They added Powerhouse. I think it was called Powerhouse. Goodness gracious. It's a 5 CP map, which people normally hated to be on, but I had so much fun playing it. And, you know, when you're younger and everything, you're like, don't really care how long a match takes, but I loved playing Powerhouse. I love Suijin. Suijin is this just amazing King of the Hill map, which was broken right away because you could just shoot the other spawn. But it was a very beautiful map. It had all these like lotus trees, all these beautiful flowers, and all this like very Japanese kind of architecture, and everything was really fun. And then Borneo was just the push the cart map. Like after Upward, after Badwater, like the goated, like the most iconic like push the cart maps ever, Borneo was like, dude, this is fundamentally such a fun map, and also just such a good map to play engineer on. Borneo was such a fun map. So, like map selection was huge. It was so good in Gunmetal. It was also the very first one that ever had introduced contracts. And now you're like no lifing contracts with your buddies, and this is, you can still help each other do contracts nowadays. Although also in this event used to double up on contracts. They got rid of that, which is so sad. So now you only have to do one contract at a time. Whatever. So you and a buddy would be like, hey dude, let's both, you know, get through this like medic contract, or oh, if you need help finishing your heavy contract, I'll go medic, I'll pocket you. So like there's so much fun working together to get all these contracts done to unlock all these cool things. This is also like added weapon skins. I don't love weapon skins in TF2. It's very CSGO-y. I don't think it's super necessary, but there are some really fun ones. You know,
some of them work really well, and then others are just whatever.
Some kind of look messy. So like the Backwoods Boomstick is just like a classic green camo. And you know, it's got Boomstick in the name. So I love it. It's an Evil Dead kind of reference. So it's really cool. So I love the Backwood Boomstick. Obviously, there's like just one that's like straight up an American flag, which I'm like, of course, I want a few things like that. That rocks. I really like the cardboard box one. You know, everybody just puts that on their soldier's black box classically. And then there's a handful of other like really fun like cosmetic skins that can come from that stuff. But more so, and it was also an event where you bought a medal. You could buy a medal that I think unlocked all these contracts. And then depending on how many points, how many kills you got during the events, your medal would be gold or silver Australium or whatever. So it was like, it also showed, oh, this is how much I played specifically during that event. And I just remember having so much fun with it. And also, these two events also kind of tie into each other, so I'll mention it really quickly in talking about my favorite update. But Secret Invasion happened almost directly after Gunmetal. And Secret Invasion was the same thing, where it had this big alien theme, but it was also just like, hey, there's contracts, hey, there's a medal you can buy, and hey, there's some of the coolest weapons ever. Like they added a lightsaber for Scout called the Bat Saber. It rocked.
So great.
They added the Geiger counter for Engineer, which is a reskin of the Wrangler, and it was like, oh, this is so cool. I still don't have one. It breaks my heart. That's like $200 to get now, which is so sad. Yeah, I never, in all my gambling, I never opened it. It's totally worth it. Totally worth it. I do still own every single engineer weapon and every single reskin for it, but I used to try to own the most expensive version too. So I recently have realized I don't want Valve to own all these pixels that I technically don't own when it's like a $500 item. So I used to have a gunslinger, which is the engineer's like chopped off hand that makes the mini sentry. I used to have a strange version of that I bought like 8 years ago for $50, and I was like, dude, I can't believe I'm spending $50 on this. Oh my gosh. I sold it 2 weeks ago for $500. Insane that somebody paid that. And I was like, wow, I made a crazy profit, and I got to play it. And it's like, I don't need to track my mini sentry kills.
And meanwhile,
it was fun for a while.
I'm over here working on Steam badges with the cards and stuff, and it's like, ooh, my pack had a foil card. I can sell that for $2. All right.
But yeah, I don't know. TF2's kind of is a huge part of TF2, so it's really hard not to talk about it because it's just so intrinsic to the game. One of the first,
the reason to grind. It's the reason to do so much stuff and keep coming back.
I love Gunmetal. I love that. I also mini shout out, like I said, Man vs. Machine is my favorite game mode. The Big Rock update, which also, I want to say that update added the Rescue Ranger, the Vaccinator, and the double donk weapon. Oh, what is it called? The loose cannon for Demo Man. And like those were all weapons besides the loose cannon that fundamentally changed how each class played so drastically. The Rescue Ranger for Engineer, letting you heal a building from long range and also bring it to you, be able to pick it up with mouse 2 for your alt mouse click to bring a building all the way from however far away you were, was insane. Was so fundamental, game-breakingly changing for Engineer, where it was like, oh, I can now switch to Wrangler to make my sentry take less damage, to now I can heal it with the Rescue Ranger. It was insane. Like,
that is probably my favorite thing about the item system in Team Fortress 2 is how, like, it's not like most other games where you do this and you have a 20% faster reload rate, but whatever other downside, but they actually are like, no, actually you're just playing a new character now with
and
some
that's
overlap
so cool.
with
Like
this other character.
The art of the subclass is such a crazy and beautifully Team Fortress 2 thing, where basically every class kind of has a subclass, which is really cool. So like Engineer has the standard, you could turtle, you can be forward with it, just using his stock items, right? And then there's like the battle engineer. You go Widowmaker, you go pistol, and you go gunslinger, and now you're a slightly higher health engineer that doesn't care so much about building and taking all this time to build up this big level 3 sentry. Instead, you just drop this mini sentry and you're all about, shotgunning, getting in people's faces, cutting off corners, annoying
it feels
scouts.
Closer to like Soldier in oh my god.
In Overwatch?
No.
Okay. I was like, I don't know.
Totally different thing. Borderlands. There we go. Like Roland in Borderlands.
Yeah.
Where he throws out the turret and stuff as a big cooldown ability, but he's mostly running and gunning and. Yeah.
So, like that different style of play, that engineer was like, oh, it was huge. It revolutionized. Like, oh, I don't have to sit in the back. So many people are just naturally, sure, build a teleporter, but then, I turtle NG in the back or something, or I struggle to build a sentry or whatever. So, and then it's like same thing with Soldier. You can be slow and you can walk around and you can accept that he is a higher DPS class and his downside is that he's slow. Or you can gain the skill of rocket jumping. Yeah, you can rocket jump everywhere. Or you can even focus that where you are now a market garden soldier. And now you don't really care about shooting people with rockets or using your shotgun. And instead it's all about like getting that one-shot crit kill with the market gardener, which is really cool. Same thing where it's like medic. Okay, medic, you can be just a support that heals the heavy and follows behind him. Or you can now duo with another medic and you can take turns uber charging each other and using the uber saw to gain uber, and now you're battle medics.
I love the uber saw. I'm not good with it, but I love it.
I mean, it's like the best medic melee weapon just out there. Is the fact that one hit melee gets you 25%. Right? Yeah, it's nuts. It's like that's pretty classic. Gotta have that in the meta of MVM because you can easily farm the robots for it. But then, yeah,
yeah.
in a normal game, when you see like the double medics Ubering each other and they're running at you, you're like, oh no, oh gosh, what am I gonna do? And I guess we have to, at the very least, during subclass, we have to mention the Demo Knight, the most like intrinsically built one to items, where it's like, okay, this guy is an explosive specialist. His melee never matters, and now it's like, okay, his melee only matters. He now does not have a grenade launcher. He has boots. Yeah, he gets the Islander. He gets the big sword because he's Scottish, and it's like, oh, that's such a cool way to like tie in some lore to the character, and also be like, yeah, no grenade launcher, no sticky bomb launcher. You have a shield. You have a cool pair of boots that give you some health or whatever, and you have a sword. You are a completely different class, just straight up a completely different class, which is awesome. So I love the item system TF2 for allowing some stuff like that to happen, and all sorts of creativity where, sure, people can go into the meta of sixes or MDM or whatever, and it's like, well, you should just play these. But in like, to me, TF2 is played best as like a casual pub game. And in it, you get all these great, just fun, different versions of the classes that everybody just has so much creativity to play.
It's definitely better queuing with other people because you can kind of coordinate some of those things. Like,
oh, absolutely.
I have played, the thing I've played the most of is Medic. So I like being able to, coordinate as a Medic with someone like, all right, I want to push with you, I want to do whatever. But also being able to swap over based on what they're doing, and we can coordinate this stuff, which obviously, if you are playing with with people that all know what they're doing and are coordinated, it doesn't have to be queuing with other people, but it's certainly more fun and easier to do it that way.
Oh, absolutely. Team Fortress 2, like, team is in the name, but when you queue randomly, it's not a team game. God, people are just, so it's team deathmatch maybe, and like, oh, I guess we'll eventually, classic term pub push, will eventually, when the timer starts ticking down and it gets scary, we'll actually try to play the objective, sometimes. But for the most part, it's just run around and kill people, the game for many people, unless you have a plan, unless you play with other people.
It's amazing how much the payload is just ignored for 80% of a map.
Yeah, I guess it's there. I guess the control points are a thing.
The heal bot, it'll give me ammo. I can run back for a second.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess I can touch it really quick and heal up. Okay, nice. Whatever, moves forward, I guess.
That's a neat thing. That's weird.
Oh, crazy. Crazy how that works. That and like, the worst is capture the flag. Capture the flag is just not... I'm sorry to all the 2-fort stands.
I don't think capture the flag is like I don't think the class system lends itself well to capture the flag.
Just doesn't work. TF2 capture the flag just stalls out. It just stalls out. Engineers build a massive base right by the intelligence. You can never capture the flag in TF2. Like, 2-fort is a never-ending hellscape of, I guess we're just killing each other because the game mode will never actually end. No one's ever going to capture this thing, and people are going to get mad at me if I capture it. Because people are specifically playing this game mode, so it never ends. Because they know it's like no one's ever going to actually play the objective. So yeah, I don't know. Capture flag doesn't... Crazy concept. Sorry to some TF2 fans. I do like it when the game ends and I can load into a different game or something. I never understood like the Hell Tower, the 2-fort. Don't you dare cap. Don't you dare, end the game. I don't know. It's like, why not play the objective to me? It's very simple. Like, why not do the thing to win the game? Yeah. That's a weird sub part of Team Fortress 2 where it's like...
This idea definitely doesn't apply at all to your other podcast. Not even... There aren't people that just drag games on and do nothing. And,
sadly. Sadly, a little bit. There are people that, don't actually play the game. Oh boy. But yeah. I will say, like, shout out a fun game mode of Team Fortress 2. Like, this is another game mode where people hated on it. Hated on it. And it's Special Delivery. It's Doomsday is the name of the map. And it's the only map that's Special Delivery, where you have to go grab the Australium, bring it to the rocket, and the rocket is this slow-moving upward kind of elevator platform that once you get it to the top of the rocket, you win. And so, obviously, it's just as soon as the intelligence resets, you have to go get the Australium. So people just kill you as soon as they get on the rocket. You're out in the open, you're floating up slowly along the rocket base as the elevator moves up, and so you're so vulnerable. So that game mode took a while, and that's another game mode that doesn't really end sometimes, but it was one that was really hated. So I made sure to play the heck out of Doomsday. I played so much SD Special Delivery Doomsday that I was just like, naturally I had a soldier loadout for it. Soldier and Gunslinger Engineer were some of the best classes you can play, in my opinion, on SD Doomsday. Because Engineer had the mini sentry, and you could hide it in bushes, which rocks. And there were a lot of tight corners, a lot of weird places you could get. Which, well, it rocks for me. I'm sure scout mains and other people, hated it. They're very annoying. Mini sentries are annoying. Don't get me wrong. I love them though. And then for Soldier, this is back, and I don't know if this is like still in play, but when cosmetics could actually give you a buff in game. So Soldier had the Tank Buster set, which was the black box, the escape plan, and the oh my gosh, the backpack that's a battery. I'm sorry to the listener who's like, this is his favorite game and he doesn't know the name. The Battalion's Backup. Goodness gracious. The black box, the Battalion's Backup, and the escape plan. And then you also had to have the Tank Gunner's Cap. This one I don't know. Sorry, listener. This is my favorite game. I promise.
In your defense, I looked at the Manco catalog when we were recording gameplay earlier, and I saw that there was 158 pages of items. So there's a few.
There's a stupid amount of. There's an insane amount of items in TF2 where they obviously keep just making more and more and more and more and more. And like remembering the cosmetics is like impossible. There's an insane amount of cosmetics, and there it is, the Grenader's soft cap. Okay, I just had to go to his Wikipedia page, and I could have figured it out. Who'd have known? And turns out actually you didn't need the escape plan for it. That was pseudo part of the set. It was like implied, but actually it was just the black box, Battalion's Backup, and the Grenader's soft cap. But basically, before they changed it, you would get like a 10% damage reduction, something crazy like that. It was like, it just made you way more tank. No, it gave you 20 more health. You just had 20 more base health.
Oh, just a flat 20 more health?
Yeah, so Soldier had 220 health. And that is true. I do have this fact straight. And so that combined with the black box was on hit, you gained 3 health. And the Battalion's Backup made you, I think, 10%, 20% resistance to all damage. And then also opponents
could your rocket jump crits. Too?
I don't know if it boosted your rocket jump or anything, because it made you resistant to damage. So I think it was based off damage how far you could rocket jump. So I don't think it helped you there at all. But it just made you a tank. Like, yeah, it was called the Tank Buster, and you became kind of a tank where you could heal easily with the black box. You could reduce damage better with Battalion's Backup, and then obviously you had like another 20 base health once you had all these items equipped. So that was my go-to for Doomsday, because you're so out in the open. The enemy team can so easily shoot you moving up this little elevator that this just made the most sense to me. So I loved it. I don't remember what update it was, but now they changed all of the ones. There's like a spy one, a scout one, and a soldier one that I 100% know. There might have been more for other classes. But they made them so now if you ever play all these like items together, you don't actually get a real in-game buff. It instead like leaves a quote-unquote calling card on your victim, which is like a little grave. When you kill them, they have a little gravestone, which is kind of cute, but no effect, no in-game effect, which is actually probably smart. There probably should not be
overall probably a good thing, but I did find them interesting to try to like think about.
I liked it a lot.
But yeah, like, probably better.
But it is better from like a game design standpoint. Absolutely, a cosmetic item should not give you this extra buff.
Still be active in man versus machine though.
That'd be awesome. Because we talked earlier where it's like the robots. I should be broken against them.
Why worry about balance? Just let us do all the crazy things.
This is nothing. This is some bot. Like, mess them up. This is awesome.
And then if they want, they could make like a bonus wave where it's like every enemy is the big tank and you have to fight like 20 of them or whatever. Just let us be insane and just see how crazy it can get.
It is a little fun. That is one thing I love about Man vs. Machine, when they do the one big boss robot, especially like Rottenberg, Manhattan, like the more popular ones to play nowadays, is, usually most people just have it down to a science. I don't have a crazy high amount of tours, but I have like 50 tours on like Rottenberg, Manhattan, the Twin Cities one. So 50 tours times 4, it's been like, okay, too much money on these $1 tickets. But anyways, I have 50 tours on it, and so like typically people go like, okay, cool, we have a good composition, and then you'll get still to this day, because there's new people picking it up every once in a while, where it's like, oh, this guy's got like one tour or no tours. This is the very first one he's ever doing. So you do struggle a bit, but typically if you have 50 higher, 30 something tours, whatever, you know how to do all these things. You know how to like just kill these robots like instantly. But it's kind of fun to struggle every once in a while against these big boss robots where you're like, all right, guys, come on, it's a boss. We gotta lock in. We really gotta play our best here. It can be a lot of fun.
Yeah. It is really interesting to like min-max and learn all of that, and then, but you still need something keeping it interesting after however many plays, which I do think that overall Team Fortress 2 does a very good job of keeping things interesting despite the insane amount of time you have spent playing it.
Yeah, oh yeah. And actually, to kind of bring back to not only keeping the game interesting, but like subclasses a little bit. Obviously, my name is Nova Shotgunner. That's been my gamer tag it was the first thing 13-year-old me could think of. I love shotguns in all form, whatever, in video games. Sometimes they're incredibly broken. Sometimes they're not. Sometimes they're just like a waste of time. Why would you ever equip that in a lot of games? In Team Fortress 2, TF2 is such an iconic, simple shotgun that it is the secondary for soldier, heavy, pyro, and then it's the primary for engineers. Like 4 out of the 9 classes use the shotgun. Yes, okay, that's correct. Yeah, I was like, there's no way I can get this wrong. So, like, 2 of my favorite classes use the shotgun, and then in Man vs. Machine, it's very common that, like, why would you ever use it? It's the stock shotgun. Engineer needs to use the Rescue Ranger to heal his building. Soldier needs the buff banner to buff the team. So for the longest time, it's so fun to min-max the dumbest things in the game, because you can.
Yeah.
Like, why not? So the maxed out shotgun can hold like 20 shells and shoots stupid fast, but then it takes forever to reload, even with like the fastest reload speed. So you're sitting there,
oh yeah, because it's one shell at a time, right?
One little shell at a time. So it's so funny to max out your shotgun. As like soldier was like, I think probably the best class to play, as far as like mobility and everything went. I could use shotgun. It's like so funny.
I absolutely love trying to break things with like min-maxing things that are the wrong thing.
Yeah.
Doing this in all sorts of games. Like I remember one time in World of Warcraft, like people joke about like non-healing classes using the first aid profession. It's like, oh, they spec bandage. And it's so like I tried to do whatever dungeon. It was a low level dungeon, so it wouldn't have gotten too crazy. But the idea was that we didn't have anyone with any healing spells, but we just had a lot of like area control and people all with, at least at the levels we were at, like the best bandages we could use. And so we would just like, okay, we got to heal this person. All right, freeze the enemies. Now you go bandage, and then this person picks them up, and then.
That's so awesome.
It was really dumb and bad, and we did not finish the dungeon. But like trying it is we cleared a bunch of trash. The bosses were the problems.
Oh, sure.
Because we ran into fight mechanics where it's like, oh well, this doesn't actually work. But
it's just so goofy. It's so fun. Like, I don't know. I feel like if there's any game that has an upgrade tree where you like typically on your first go through, you just like try your best, and then like somewhere in there you're like, well, what if I just upgrade and go to this like really one dumb upgrade tree? And it's so fun. It's like, so my strange shotgun has 651 robots destroyed on like the strange part, which is stupid for a shotgun to have that. So it's just like, it's just so fun that it's like, yeah, my shotgun has robots destroyed, and you're never supposed to use this thing in Man vs. Machine. And just because it's hilarious to like min-max and like randomly. And like that too with like the buff bison or whatever, the bison, that like soldiers kind of, I guess, ray gun is what you call it. It's like the cow mangler, the bison, what's it called? Righteous bison, and the Pomson 6000 for like engineer. And I guess the Flog too, the more infamous version of these, were all an insane collab with Weta Workshop of all places to make
Really?
to make these really cool futuristic, wild, very yet futuristic noir, like what we thought the future would be in 1950, 1960. You know, it's like that's the style of it, of these weapons. And yeah, it was like a Weta Workshop designer and TF2 collaborated, and you could buy Weta Workshop replicas of these weapons. They're probably all crazy expensive now. I know you could at least buy the Bison. I don't know if you could buy all of them, but I know you could buy the Bison because that was like the main kind of gun. That was like the poster child for it. And so it made all these weapons in TF2 that didn't require ammo, you know, that needed to be like charged instead of reloaded, and you know, which is just the reloading animation, but no ammo was used up. And so a lot of them were like bad to good. Like the Thompson was always bad. The Thompson resembled that one gun from Call of Duty, which might have also been called the Pomps. I don't remember what it was called, but it was like a ray gun. That wasn't the handheld like ray gun, but the Wonder Waffler or whatever it was called. That's what like the engineer's Thompson resembled. The Righteous Bison, I think at one point it was like one of the most broken weapons ever, and now it's
Really?
like bad. Yeah.
Oh, like they nerfed it or whatever?
Like they nerfed it into the ground. They like nerfed
Okay.
the Bison into the ground. It used to be like to do like it could shoot through walls and stuff.
Oh,
Or-
yeah, that does sound broken.
it was nuts. Or like its particles would collide on the other side of the wall. I don't think it necessarily shot through walls, but yeah, it could collide with somebody who was like directly on the other side of the wall, which is again almost the same thing, but like really good, really fun story. So a few things of TF2 history that you might find interesting that you missed out on was like we talked about like weapon skins, and then you can like reskin a basic weapon or whatever for a very small point in time. You know, there's always been paints, not always, but there's been paints in TF2 to repaint certain hats that could be repainted. I think it was literally for like 2 hours. You could paint the Cow Mangler, the soldier's futuristic rocket launcher. You could paint that. But it was like, again, like literally like just 2 hours. Like they released an update. For some reason, it allowed you to paint the Cow Mangler 5000, and then insanely fast later, they fixed it. So a painted Cow Mangler, I should just look it up, what a TF2 like painted Cow Mangler cost. But it's like, it was stupid expensive. It was like, oh my gosh. And I remember seeing that and being like, oh my, dude, I totally had paint in my backpack. I wish I should have booted up Team Fortress 2 and like painted my Cow Mangler. And yeah, it's like a painted Cow Mangler. Okay, I don't think it's worth like trying to find, but like yeah, finding one in the wild is insanely impressive, you know. So like that's just like a crazy thing. It was like the only time you could ever paint a weapon. It was like literally 2-3 hours or something, and it was like ridiculously expensive. So there's also the Crate Depression of this is like 2018, 2019.
Oh, like a market crash?
Market crash. So well, the first big market crash was when this. So you saw on the Manco store that it has pages and pages of weapons, right? For the longest time, you could not, if you bought a weapon from the Manco store, you could not craft with it. So because you couldn't craft with it, you couldn't really trade it or whatever either. So it was basically worthless, right? You could spend whatever money to Valve, but since you couldn't craft or do anything with it outside of that, it wasn't really worth anything. And the main like dollars currency for TF2 was refined, reclaimed, and scrap metal. So for the longest time, one key was 2.33, which is 2 refined, 1 reclaimed. That's what a key used to cost. A key post the very first kind of Great Depression market crash, and this is not the Crate Depression, was when they made weapons in the Manco store craftable. So now you could buy.
It flooded the market with all these weapons that people just happen to have had.
Yeah. So now you can just craft everything. So instead of waiting, you get your 10 drops for 10 hours a week for TF2, and that's the cap. That's the amount of reclaimed. So it takes, you smelt 2 weapons together, makes 1 scrap. 2 of the same class weapon make 1 scrap. 3 scrap makes 1 reclaimed. 3 reclaimed make 1 refined, right? So since you only got a finite amount of weapon drops every week, you know, there was a certain intrinsic value to reclaimed metal, refined metal, whatever. Because it took so many steps to do all these weapons, to get all this scrap, to get all this whatever, to get there. But now that you could just buy it, inherently craftable weapons were just worthless. So it instantly made, you know, keys, which still cost $2.49. That's not changed ever. Now for trade value though, they would be, like I said, 2.33 was 2 refined, one reclaimed, they're like 46 something. So it's like 46 reclaimed is now worth like $2.40 basically. So like that was one of the first Great Depression type of things that happened. The Crate Depression was when, and this is like again for like a day. It's like a full day, and this is in an era where Valve has not updated TF2 in like 3 or 4 years, like meaningfully. And so every single crate you opened, and I believe it was a standard Manco crate, you were guaranteed to get an unusual. Where before, an unusual was like 1 out of 100, like 1% chance to get an unusual. I've opened so many crates, and typically when I would do like my $100 crate unboxings, it was always like, but I'll at least get one. Sometimes that was not the case. A lot of the times it was, and it felt great because I could sell it and I could gamble more. But then during this time, I remember I was literally outside working, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I need to run inside right now, start on my computer, and open as many, I think it was like 50-something to 50-something crates. It was like a very specific crate number series that was a guaranteed unusual. And I was like, I gotta have crates in my backpack. I've got to check it. And I could be wrong. Some listeners might be like, this guy doesn't know what he's talking about. But yeah, and I went in there and I opened...
is a funky thing.
Yeah, it's wild. It really is wild. And so I opened up a few crates, and I was like, wow, sure enough, guaranteed unusual. I think I had like 2 of the crates that would qualify for it, and I got like 2 guaranteed unusuals. And so it was great because at the time, all the unusuals on the market were like $10. Like, the unusuals were usually like 50 to $300 something, like kind of bad effects that no one cares about unusuals are around like still like $30 to $40 for a hat, people. A hat that has fire on it, or dead flies, or something silly. Because it's a hat with an effect, it's worth so much more. And yeah, I got like some like really garbage hats. And the way they fixed it, because they didn't want to make people mad for having spent all this money to get these hats, they didn't want to make them untradeable or whatever. They made the first hat that you unboxed that day tradable, and then the rest were like untradeable, basically. So that was their like fix to it, this huge mess up that you could just instantly like guarantee an unusual whenever you unbox something.
So it made it like trickle out instead of flood?
Basically, yeah. Because I mean, like, it instantly just flooded the market with all these unusual hats. I'm like, oh, we can't do that. So sure, the first one you guys did, you can sell it, but everything after that is untradeable, unsellable, whatever. So yeah, it was, I don't know, funny, crazy times for like the TF2, like, and those are just like kind of mess ups by like Valve and everything, where it's like, oh, well, whoops, the casino's open, everybody wins, but some of the money's not real, I guess.
Well, they are, they're game designers, not the stock market.
Very true. Not very true.
So, so I do want to back up a bit. You mentioned the replica of the Bison weapon.
Yeah.
Is that like a life size replica or
it was
what?
like a big thing. Yeah, it was like a life size replica. You can.
So, have you gotten any other things like that? Because like you've done a lot of cosplay with this. Do you have like official props, or is everything homemade?
I don't have any official Team Fortress 2 props. I want to say, besides the Righteous Bison, I think they've made like one like an engineer's wrench, I want to say, was pseudo official. Outside of that, they have like sticky bombs and a few other things, but I don't think they have many officially licensed like props for Team Fortress 2. What I've made, I've remade engineer's wrench. I guess 3 times. So I made like the standard wrench. One of the first cosplays I ever had was the engineer from Team Fortress 2, like my very first convention. I was like, this is my favorite character of all time. I want to be him. And it was easy. It was like, oh, I go to a Tractor Supply and I get overalls, welding goggles, and a hard hat.
Buy the clothes.
Yeah, just buy the clothes. Like, oh, this is great. And I have to make his big goofy wrench. At the time, I was like, oh yeah, that's like an engineer wrench. No real wrench looks like that. And a few years later, I find out, oh, this is what wrenches used to just look like. I guess. Never mind. Which is kind of funny. Like, not as goofishly cartoony, but it is based in a real wrench style. So he's like standard stock wrench I made, and then I later painted, like these toy shotguns, which if you saw off the extended handle, and so now it's like a quote unquote pistol grip kind of shotgun, because TF2's shotgun doesn't have a stock on it, then it would basically be a TF2 shotgun. It's very simple kind of toy hunting shotgun that you can get like a Runnings or again, Tractor Supply. Shout out Tractor Supply. Goodness gracious. Egg store. Thank you. Or like a Cabela's or something like that, or Bass Pro. And then if you painted like one part gray, it was literally, oh, that's exactly what the TF2 shotgun looks like. So I have one of those. And then sometime around 2015, when it wasn't 2015. It was 2017, 2018, somewhere around there. I want to revamp my engineer costume, and I buy the patches from We Love Fine, one of the few websites that had like official TF2 merchandise from Valve. So now like, oh, cool. My blue button shirt now has these engineer patches. And then I made my favorite engineer weapon ever. I made the Rescue Ranger. And that was like such a fun project because it's really just, again, it's the stock shotgun, but it also has the stock still on it. And then it has these orange bits. So it has an orange bit at the end of the barrel. And then this little camera kind of live feed video thing, which has like a pulse on it, which is really cool. And fun TF2 fact, that pulse tells you how high on metal you are, how low on metal you are. So the more like the pulse is going up and down, like a classic, I guess, like a human's pulse, like in a hospital or whatever, it's like, oh, you have a ton of metal, you're full on metal. And then when it's like dead, when it's flatlining, you're out of metal completely, which is really cute. So I made the Rescue Ranger out of like, some cardboard bits, some foam bits. And then I'm like, well, it's real life. I can just paint the wrench gold, because at the time the golden wrench was like, you can never get this. There's only 100 in existence, and a certain amount were actually destroyed for charity, which is really cool. But only if you crafted them during the engineer update. Again, gambling, you had a percentage chance of getting a golden wrench. And I once went crazy and like messaged a bunch of people about it. But anyways, so I made a new foam engineer wrench and I painted it gold, and I was like, oh, cool. So outside of that, for TF2 props, I've also made a Medic standard bone saw for a buddy of mine that was Medic. And then most recently, I was engineer again last year. And that's been what's been great about going to more conventions as of late, was like, oh yeah, I want to be the engineer again. Well, now my wrench from 2018 is pretty junky. So I finally made my first favorite wrench besides the stock wrench, even though in an update, this wrench got basically, it used to be the best. So the Jag used to be the best TF2 wrench to use, just straight up. Even though it, I think, healed buildings less, because it had like the 20% increase to build time when you would hit a building with it. You were like, oh, I just make buildings way faster. This
sure.
rocks.
Yeah. Just
so I think
crazy.
Now, after the most recent patch to it, which is probably, again, like 6 or 7 years old at this point, the stock wrench is just kind of considered the best. But for the longest time, it was the Jag. And I still love the Jag. And it's a very cool style where it kind of has this big curve in it. And so I made that last year. I made the Jag wrench as a prop last year, which is really fun. So I have like the Jag, I have the stock shotgun, the stock wrench, a golden wrench, and the Rescue Ranger is what I have as far as props go for TF2.
Awesome. And you've done like, you've been doing lots of cosplay. I know you've been doing like judging cosplay competitions. Like what's the coolest thing that you've seen from like meeting other people doing cosplay for this game, and like finding connections and stuff that kind of surprised you about it?
TF2 is a beautiful cosplay community, and like if you're into almost any video game or any property, I do implore you to check out some of like Instagram or whatever their feed or hashtags might be as far as cosplay goes for certain games. I've met some of my favorite friends ever through like the Team Fortress 2's cosplay community. So the very first convention I ever went to, Sodak Con, I was like, me, my brother, and my cousin, we were like, we're all going to cosplay TF2. This is going to be so much fun. So my brother was the heavy, my cousin was the medic, I was the engineer. And I decided to enter my very first cosplay contest ever. I'm like, well, if we're going to dress up, I might as well do the cosplay contest, of course. Not knowing that you need to like, and really you don't really have to make some incredibly extraordinary thing. You can just make a little, and then, there's closet cosplay, there's all sorts of whatever. So never be scared about entering a costume contest. I'm like 16 in this story, and I'm like, I'm just going to do it because, that's what you do. Where I'm going to be in costume. So it's going to be fun. So I memorized the engineer's monologue, and that was like my skit on stage as I went, I'm an engineer, and that means I solve problems. I try to do his voice. I remember just like memorizing it in the car and like trying to like think about it as many times as possible. And I made his wrench, and that was the only thing I made. Again, it was like that's all I made of this cosplay was just this wrench. And then I did this fun little monologue, and I didn't win anything, and I didn't have to because it was fun. And then I met some of the coolest creators ever. I met Justin Cox, shout out him and shout out his group of buddies that were also all like TF2 people. So we all did blue. My favorite color is blue, so I just wanted to be blue. Obviously, like the red characters in TF2 are like quote unquote the main characters, and almost all the media, all the Meet the Teams are red and everything. But I like the color blue, so I wanted to be blue team. So I made my brother and my cousin be like the blue versions, and they were of course like the quote unquote normal versions, like the red versions of all the characters. And we had a great time. Just like none of this was planned. We just all loved TF2 and we all wanted to dress up as it. It was awesome. And then a few years ago, when I go to NebraskaCon, and I've been to this again for a ton of years, and I'm like, I really don't know what I want to bring. I'll just bring the engineer. He's always been kind of my classic costume to bring if I want to be kind of lazy. I can wear just kind of pants and wear overalls and a button shirt. And I have the tool belt, which rules because it's a ton of pockets, so it's a great costume to be in. And so then I meet these other people and I'm like, oh, you guys are also TF2. That's so awesome. And so we do an impromptu meetup where there's another heavy there. There's a scout, there's a sniper, there's a medic, there's a soldier. And it's like, wow, we have so much of the team. How crazy is it that, again, we are all cosplayers?
It is crazy to me that like this game is now 17 years old this year. And yeah, right. And
it is nuts.
And like the cosplay, like any convention you go to, you'll find at least like a couple scouts and something else. There's always at least some people still doing TF2.
That honestly does surprise me. So I recently went, back to South Dakota. I went to SuperCon, and there was a scout, I saw a scout, a soldier, and a spy. I was like, oh my gosh, and they're young, and I'm like, man, people still are getting into this game because this game.
Yeah, they might not have been alive when the game came out, right? I saw some of those pictures.
Really, straight up, may not have been alive when the game came out, and I'm like, to me, it's like, oh, 2007, yeah, great year, but it's like, oh, someone born in like 2010 is walking and talking. What can drive? Yeah. I'm like, oh goodness gracious. So yeah, it's kind of crazy. Boomer take, I know, sorry, but it is just true. It's like, man, it's crazy. Like, you weren't born when this game came out and you love it. But I mean, that's true for whatever. I like The Thing 1982. I like Evil Dead. I wasn't born when those things.
That's a little different though. Like, those are things that have been referenced and done in other media. Like,
very true.
Like, and we talked, I don't remember, it wasn't on this recording, but we talked about how TF2 is now this multimedia franchise, but it's all kind of insular to it itself. Whereas, you don't get, you're not watching something on Netflix and someone makes a TF2 joke. Like,
that is very true. Yeah, that is definitely like, TF2 is very rarely referenced, where people would be surprised how much like internet culture, memes and stuff like come from Team Fortress 2, and like there's an insane amount of memes. Like, I referenced like the Stoutchenko for Two are Fine. There's the pretty classic like Engineer Nope meme that's like out there. Mm-hmm. There's an insane amount of TF2 memes. TF2 memes that have like broken past the barrier of Team Fortress 2 and are then referenced in other like very, again, niche video game internet kind of humor, but never breaking into the mainstream.
The adjacent circles.
Definitely not like going to be referenced like, like in Black Panther, sure, he goes like, what are those? I'm like, yeah, she's never going to be like penis cupcake or whatever, or like one of the soldier's dumbest meme voice lines, or like that's not going to happen in a Marvel movie or any like real crazy media. But yeah, no, TF2 is insanely expanded everything. So now I've met some of like my best friends ever and had some of the best times ever at like just by cosplaying Team Fortress 2 and seeing all these like people that just love the same thing that I love at a convention, which really rules.
Yeah, it really is the best.
Oh, actually, mini fun story while we're still on cosplay.
Yes.
When I made the Golden Wrench and the Rescue Ranger, it was specifically for SuperCon in 2017, 2018, one of those years. And obviously this is in a post Overwatch world. So like Overwatch, quote unquote TF2 clone, whatever, not going to get into it. But the night before I actually stayed up way too late, and I ended up like, I was literally in line for judging at the cosplay contest. I was going to enter the engineer again. I was going to have a fun time. But I'm like, nah, I'm tired. And I went back to my hotel room and took a nap. But I never like dropped out of the competition. So my name was still on the list. So what I thought was really funny was later that day I go, oh, but I still want to watch the cosplay competition. They call my name up on stage and they're like, Patriot Props. So actually, well, really quick shout out, shameless plug. If you want to see my TF2 cosplay and other cosplays like Doom and Ash from Evil Dead or Captain America, follow me on Patriot Props _ on Instagram. Anyways, they call out, they say Patriot Props as the engineer from Team Fortress 2. And then it's just nothing because I'm in the crowd. And like one of my friends looks over at me and is like, dude, are you supposed to be up there? And I'm like, yeah. Forgot to bow out. And then instantly after that, and this is why I mentioned Overwatch, they go, geez, Sombra's not the right name. Who's the girl that makes the turrets though? Torbjorn is the guy that makes the turrets, but there's the girl that makes the little turrets too. But anyways,
yeah, they're not really turrets, but yeah,
they have like little beams. They shoot little Symmetra. Yeah, they go Symmetra from Overwatch. Symmetra from Overwatch, and I'm like, that is so funny that like the two
apparently all these turret people are like,
the two like kind of builder characters from these games just both
hey, what we do is we plop our stuff down and then go take a nap.
Exactly, yeah, we just forget about it. And I'm like, that is so funny that we were the two that did not show up. And poor MC just being like, hello, anybody? Okay, next person, please don't be 3 for 3. But yeah, sorry, mini story. Maybe
that was a good one, though.
But yeah.
I'm glad you, yeah. So we've been talking for a bit over an hour now. Is there any other big elements to this that we haven't talked about that you wanted to make sure that we touched on, or do you want to just kind of give your last little pitch of like, this is your favorite game and this is why it should be yours too?
Okay, yeah. So like really quickly, I'll do a few other fun things where it's like TF2, I learned about it at a very young age, and it led me to a lot of the other favorite franchises that I love that are really core to my character. So I want to shout out like TF2's involvement in Poker Night at the Inventory. We mentioned it a little bit earlier, but because of like just loving TF2, I kind of got into like Penny Arcade comics. Very less extent. I kind of looked into those, but then I got really into like Strong Bad in the Homestar Runner universe.
Oh yeah,
and that totally got me into a totally different side of the internet that I wasn't even on at all. And now I love Strong Bad, and Trogdor has like a board game. My family knows who Trogdor is and everything. That's all because of TF2. And then the second Poker Night at the Inventory game comes out, and that has Ash in it. And I did not know who Ash from Army of Darkness or Evil Dead was.
Wait, TF2 is how you got into... Really?
Okay, yeah, so I knew you would love this because, like, people that know me, I'm a huge Evil Dead fan. Evil Dead is my favorite, like, movie franchise. Ash is, like, one of my favorite characters ever. This is like...
I would, like, if someone asked me to define you...
Yeah,
I would be like Captain America, Rancher, Evil Dead, then Team Fortress 2.
Right?
And so,
yeah. It's kind of, wow. It is crazy because like I'm looking around my room right now and I'm like, yeah, I've got Evil Dead posters, Army of Darkness posters. I don't have any TF2 stuff like necessary. I mean, I do, but not as big. So I'm huge. Like I wear Evil Dead way more, heart on my sleeve, whatever. I'm so passionate about. It's like one of my favorite properties ever. But yeah, like it's thanks to Team Fortress 2 and like just wanting items that I even know what Evil Dead, Army of Darkness, all of that stuff is, and that's thanks to like Poker Night at the Inventory.
Study on like marketing and cross branding.
Honestly, yeah. Like I was hook, line, and sinker. They were like, you know what? If we just throw all these properties, one of them's they've got to hook onto one of them. And like, yeah, sure. I did play Borderlands 2 from Poker Night at the Inventory 2, and I did kind of try to watch Venture Bros, and I kind of fell off. But like Evil Dead, I was like, instantly I'm hooked. Like this is like, drugs. This is like awesome. This is the coolest thing ever. Kind of the same thing with the first Poker Night game where it's like, Sam and Max, whatever. Penny Arcade, yeah, it's pretty cool. Those are cute comics. I read a few of them, but then I was like, oh, what? Strong Bad? This is awesome. So, hey, brands, I'm like your favorite guy for anything. If you do a crossover, there's a 1 in 4 chance that I'm gonna just love one of the things you cross over with, statistically speaking. So yeah, like that's like another thing I just want to shout out, like just Team Fortress 2, where it got me into some of my favorite things ever. I met some of my favorite people ever. TF2 has such a beautiful artwork and style. I mentioned a little bit when I was playing with Alex about how much I love the TF2 comics and the style those comics are written, quote unquote, and made. The art is beautiful. The humor is hilarious. There's something just so TF2-y about everything. They, I swear, had like professional writers write their blog posts. TF2 was like one of the few blogs I ever cared about as far as updates and everything to the game goes. And they were all done in such a fun style. Even if you look at the Team Fortress 2 chess set, some of the few like real life things, merchandise for TF2, they have their own set of rules for chess where it's like, hey, take that funny horse, put it in your pocket, go eat a sandwich if your opponent actually cares about chess. What a loser. Come back, do the dishes, go live your life while he's trying to play chess. That's their rules for chess on the side of the box is like, how lame is this guy for wanting to play chess? Are you kidding me? And it's like, but you're a chess set. This is your product that you're selling me. And it's hilarious. So, and it's a high quality product, which is really crazy cool. So like Team Fortress 2 just has such this great aura. It's fun. They don't take their world like too terribly seriously. And it really did just feel like the people that were in charge of marketing or making fun things for the community were having a fun time. I got to shout out the NECA TF2 action figures as well. I'm a big action figure guy, big action figure collector. I think when TF2 like announced they had action figures, I literally like ran outside and was like, yes, this is awesome, like at the top of my lungs, because love action figures, love TF2. Man, I wish I would have bought a few more of them now that I learned they're like crazy expensive now, like how a lot of things
they were kind of limited, like one print run and done, right?
Yeah, they were very limited releases. You know, after I learned a little bit about that, like, so Demo Man and Pyro were the first ones to release. And I was like, well, I like Demo Man a lot, but I don't really play Pyro, so I'm not going to buy Pyro. And now it's like Pyro's like $200-$300 or whatever. And it's like, dang, should have just bought it. But, you know, again, like, there's like 14 or 15 when these like action figures came out. It's like I wasn't going to buy every $30 collectible action figure. And now I own a handful of them. I have like both Engineers. I have a lot of like the blue team was released later after red, and I have them like all still in box. I just don't want to touch. And like some of those action figures, like I broke like both my Demo Man's knees because I was a dumb idiot and I didn't heat him up or whatever. And I was like, got to make sure the joints work. And I'm like, I cracked like one of his knees. And I'm like, well, mind if I go really slow with the other one and then crack? And I'm like, shoot. So Demo Man can't like crouch. He's got like his knees are like hot glued together. But I don't know.
Like no, this is a feature. It's thematic. Like when Demo Man blows up and you see all the parts of his body just like burst away.
Actually, yeah. Or Meet the Medic, he's in the wheelchair. So
there we go. All right.
So it kind of works.
You can wrap a little bandage on there and you're fine.
Yeah. So yeah, like TF2 is such a beautiful culture, a beautiful community. Every girlfriend I've ever had, at one point in time, I've made them sit down and watch all the TF2 shorts with me. It's like all the Meet the Team, Love and War, the Expiration Date, like all that, all of those, End of the Line, the Man vs. Machine short. Like I've made them like have to watch all like the TF2 videos. Like TF2 is intrinsic to it. Oh, there's way worse things. Way worse things. Also, time commitment, by the way, very little, less than like 2 hours. There are guys that make every girl watch like The Matrix or something. So like I'm doing pretty, as far as that goes, pretty good, but it's just funny. I love the humor that TF2 has. I love its style of gameplay. Hashtag save TF2, Valve bot crisis, all of that. We don't have to go into all that, but like I was a huge proponent. I made sure I signed the, thing earlier this year for the hashtag save TF2. That was dropped off at the like Valve headquarters, all of the signatures. Like that's really cool. As like kind of a piece of history. So TF2 is a beautiful game. I love it. I have so many core memories with it. Shout out to a lot of the creators. Jerma is obviously, he's gone past Team Fortress 2. That Sphere, he's just a popular streamer now, but I knew him from TF2. Star is a bit of a controversial character, but early on, I still love him. Same with Muselk. He's kind of dropped TF2 for other things, but he was still a great TF2 creator. Oh my gosh. Soundsmith, gotta reference Soundsmith. I'm gonna, of course, say Uncle Dane. Uncle Dane has great humor when it comes to TF2. I love parody music. Yeah, I know this outro is taking like 20 minutes. I'm sorry, Alex.
You're good.
Uncle Dane made this great like TF2 parody music. If you ever want to listen to it, slight. Don't listen to the "I'm a Keemstar" song. It's part of his parody TF2 track that he made for some reason. Don't listen to it. It's got nothing to do with TF2. There's also like some very heavy swearing in it. So, but anyways, listen to like the Century Beep, like Telephone Ring, the Miami Lights, the like, you know, Unusual Effect. He has a great like TF2 parody music songs. They're hilarious. And who else do I want to reference for as far as like TF2 YouTubers? Because they are also kind of they're really a Funke, Funke. Funke does amazing video essays and animation style videos for Team Fortress 2. So these are a lot of the TF-tubers that I have to reference as far as, you know, respecting content creators, people that kept the game going, keep the game alive. Shout out the guys that used to do the Critscast, Critscast. There it is, the Critscast TF2 podcast. They're like the only TF2 podcast like ever, pretty much. Besides, I think maybe Direct Hit for a very short amount of time. Shout out Banny and a few other guys. That's me trying to show like I know the TF2 community. I promise. So those are some of my favorite TF2 people of all time. Shout out, of course, all of my friends. I'm gonna shout out specifically all of you, Ann and Tom, if they listen to this. Shout out to you guys for being great TF2 cosplayers and great friends to play Team Fortress 2 with. Shout out Tonka, shout out Mask, and a few other my gamer buddies that play Team Fortress 2, because I've made, you know, almost 2,000 hours in this game, which I know for some people that's like nothing in TF2. For me, it's a lot. I've not sunk 2,000 hours in many games. I'm not a crazy gamer guy, but Team Fortress 2 is intrinsic. It's my favorite game of all time. I keep going back to it. It never feels finished because there's just always more fun to be had. It's got one of the best gaming communities ever. It has some of the best times, some of the best memories. And just some of the best times I've ever had gaming. So thank you, Valve. Thank you, Team Fortress 2, you know, for all the good times.
All right. Yeah, that was pretty comprehensive.
Yeah.
But I think you're right. It always feels like there's more to do. And I will say, if you are an achievement hunter, have fun with
Almost
that.
impossible. Somebody made fun of me the other day. I think it was probably Simeon, like 2 or 3 years ago. He goes like, "Wow, I thought this was your favorite game. How come you're still missing like, what am I missing? 90 something. I have 427 achievements."
I was gonna say, if you're missing 90, that means you have quite a lot.
That's so good, dude. That's so good. So like, there's 520 achievements in this game, and I have 427. Shout out Blind Fire achievement for being the achievement where it's you have to destroy an engineer building that you can't see with your grenade launchers, Demo Man. That's your TF2. That's just exactly, that's luck. So many of these are luck. But I'm saying shout out that achievement because that was the achievement that was my like quote unquote next achievement to get. Like it would show you this is like the next achievement you should get.
Yeah, and then
in the menu.
Finally got it.
And I finally got it like 2 years ago. And like that achievement was burned into my mind just because I've seen it for like almost 10 years of this achievement.
Like,
I'm like
taunting you.
How have I never gotten this? When I finally got it, I went nuts. I was yelled like crazy. Yeah.
All right. So to recap, this is why everyone should play TF2. The game will make fun of you. It will mock you. It will go, haha, you haven't been able to do this, and it'll do it and push you and drive you to succeed in every endeavor in your life, and learn how to make friends.
Yes.
That's about.
I think that's correct. Yeah.
Okay.
It also has a beautiful, distinct art style and an amazing sense of humor.
Oh yeah, I guess those.
Also that too. Oh, and the gameplay's pretty cool. I guess.
Yeah,
it's like fine.
You shoot people.
Yeah, you like shoot people or like whatever.